So let's hear from Bob.
Well, thanks a lot. We're supposed to only have 3 minutes, but I'm going to take an extra 10 because someone called me an Air Force lawyer. We won't even dignify that with a response.
Let me change it. Bob likes hugs. Make sure you hug him before you go.
I'll be out of here before any of you touch me, you know that. So I'm Bob Marshall. I was often introducing myself as the first Democrat elected in Douglas County since 1960, but literally as I was sitting there, I came up, we don't look to the past, we look to the future, and it suddenly dawned on me, I'm the first incumbent Democrat running for re-election in Douglas County. Yeah. So always look ahead, let's not look back. But my 3 top priorities, as always, public safety, public education, and the environment. But since I got down to the Capitol, you wind up getting into an expertise, and I've become pretty much the Capitol's go-to guy and point person on good governance, taxes, and veterans issues. But Indira asked us not to really do a stump speech. She said, talk about yourself and your story and how everything got involved with the Democrats. So I wasn't born in a log cabin on the frontier of Kentucky, but I was born in a very large brick hospital in downtown Denver, St. Joe's. I grew up in Evergreen, Colorado in the 70s and 80s, which I have to tell you was Shangri-La. The place has been absolutely destroyed, and it's still better than almost anywhere else you can find. And was in the Marine Corps for 28 years, almost all over the world, and I could say that. I was absolutely shocked that there's so many places in the world that are not as wonderful as Evergreen, but there are. So I was a Republican for 30 plus years. And I graduated from Evergreen High School. I went to Georgetown University on full scholarship, went in the Marine Corps. After 6 years in the Marine Corps, they sent me to law school. Went through law school, worked as a defense counsel, the senior defense counsel in Japan, and then the SJA at Marine Corps Air Station Iwakuni. Got out, went and clerked for a federal circuit judge in Kentucky, which was one of the best experiences of my life. He was one of the greatest men I ever met out there on the Sixth Circuit, Judge Seiler. Very well-known judge. He had his little clerk tree that everybody was a part of. But I came back to Colorado with my family, and the wars kept going. So I kept getting pulled back, did my tours in Iraq and Afghanistan, doing everything. Then as I was leaving Afghanistan, the Department of State wanted me to return as the lead rule of law advisor, which was an opportunity of a lifetime, but I had a medical condition, and I wound up at Wounded Warrior Battalion, started doing disability work for the guys, absolutely loved it. So I was there on 6-month orders nonstop, and it was San Diego, so you lost track of time. So like 5 years later, I'm like, holy mackerel, this isn't exactly what I wanted to do. So I got an LLM in tax law. The IRS picked me up, and I was working in the large business and international litigation division of the IRS when COVID hit. And they had to kick me out of the building, kicking and screaming in DC because I did not want to work remotely. I was the last person out. But I told them, I'm not working here, I'm going home to Colorado. So I went home and they said, be back in 2 weeks, and we're not paying to bring you back. I went back 2 years later, basically to get my car, about a year later. But when I was here, it was the first time I started getting involved. And when I was in the Marine Corps in 2016, when Mr. Trump attacked Captain Khan's mother, I was in the BOQ for the Bachelor Officers' Quarters in San Diego that Sunday morning seeing it, and I started throwing stuff, I was about ready to say something else, at the TV nonstop. And at that point, I was like, I could never support an individual like that. And the reason being, if you are the commander-in-chief or you want to be the commander-in-chief and the mother of a dead soldier wants to yell at you, hit you, kick you, you sit there and take it like a man and don't say a freaking word. And I saw George W. Bush do that with a mother who attacked him, and he did not say a word back. And I saw Hillary Clinton do that to a mother who attacked her and blamed her for stuff, and she did not hit back. And she didn't even say anything against him. But I thought the GOP had come back to its senses, and you wait, and people say, well, why not earlier? Why not earlier? You get to the point where the straw breaks the camel's back, and for me, it was December 2017 when the Republican Party kept supporting Roy Moore for the U.S. Senate in Alabama, for those of you who remember what a disaster that was. So it was very hard for me to pull my membership in the Republican Party, but I did then. And then I was back here, and as some of you memorably remember, I started after the 4th of July when Mr. Trump had his ridiculous Mount Rushmore speech. I went down to Highlands Ranch Parkway and Broadway and started marching with a large American flag, a big Biden 2020 sign, and a straw hat that I just had. I'm a Colorado guy, that to keep the sun off my head. I was not on social media at the time, but obviously it went around and people started calling me Biden Bob, Biden guy. Things started, got involved with the cops, as you know, the sheriff's department. I have a strong background in criminal law, and so I started asking pointed questions they didn't like. Got involved there. Then, when they blew up Tri-County Health Department, I got involved in that fiasco. That led into the schools, as you all know, because it was all over masks in schools, which led to the Sunshine lawsuit. And I was doing all this stuff as an unaffiliated with the Democrats. And finally, they were like, look, you're doing all this stuff for us, and we love it. You want to join and run with us? I said, well, okay. So in December 21, I became a Democrat. June of 22, you all made me Democrat of the Year, even though I hadn't been a Democrat for a year. And in November 22, we won the first Democratic race for a partisan race in Dougco by a Democrat in more than 50 years. And people, I am, as you all know, the most conservative Democrat in the State House, but I represent the most conservative district held by a Democrat. And a lot of people ask, well, yeah, you can just switch like that? I haven't really changed. And when I mentioned growing up in Evergreen, I had two families, my mom's family and my dad's family. My dad's family were all hardcore Republicans. You go to their houses, it was like going to a museum, and books, and all intellectual. But my mother's family were hardcore Democrats. And my grandfather was one of the greatest men I ever met, a self-made man. He would always make the point and tell us, I am not a criminal. He had a ranch up in Kremling that we grew up on and a place up in Arapahoe Forest. And he said, the only reason I'm not a criminal, because I was 14 years old in the middle of the Depression, was because of Franklin Roosevelt and the Civilian Conservation Corps. And that was hard work. But they took care of people and they made him work, and he worked till the day he died. But he was always about helping people who were trying to strive and get ahead. So I had both those strains running in my family. So it was a pretty easy thing to switch over. Like I've told many people, I haven't really changed. It's just the world's changed around me. So last thing, because I know I probably have gone over, but the 3 rules, a lot of you know them if you're in my district, the 3 rules. Show up, talk to everyone, be positive. So thanks.
Bob Marshall, Colorado House District 43.